I recently had the opportunity to help Ryan with his short game. He's chipping and pitching around the greens, and together we were able to completely transform those shots, giving him a better strike, better trajectory and far more consistency. The reason he wasn't able to fix it is because the fault he had was hidden. Couldn't see it, and that's going to be the case for so many of you out there if you struggle with your chipping and your pitching. And if not addressed, it can actually lead to the dreaded yip. So we're going to go through what that is. We're going to give you some really simple fixes that can help you. So I want you to start this process. Grab yourself a wedge. I've got myself a 56 degree here. Stand up in front of you and just put the club out kind of horizontal to the ground with the club head in front of you. Hands on, normal grip. Now you have to move the club. Okay, no one's going to move it for you, you have to move it. And what we do is we are connected to the golf club here with a grip. So I want you to think about or understand the movements that we've got. Try and keep the grip of the club fairly still and just make these little movements back and through. So you can see that club is moving, I don't know, 1.5 foot back and through, grip is staying relatively still. We also have this movement here, up and down. We have the ability to twist the golf club, which you can see would influence the golf club. Now those are all kind of grouped in the same sort of category. We're going to call those torques, okay? Twist the club this way, twist the club this way, twist the club this way. But we can also push on the golf club. So I can actually take my hands, I can push on the grip. And if I have a light grip pressure, that's going to have an effect on the club head. You can see how as I push on the club, it changes the whole relationship between the club and my body. And we can push on the club downwards, we can push back, we can push forwards. So we've got different movements that we can have. What was happening in Ryan's golf swing, you know, speaking to him and talking to him, this was really stemming from him being a little bit nervy, not being the most confident chipper, and almost communicating to me that he kind of wanted the shot over and done with it as quick as he could. So he was using a little bit of wrist in his backswing. That's absolutely fine. Most of the short game shots that you hit, you will use some wrists, and it's actually a good thing. But what he did in transition, once he'd made his little backswing, he was trying, or he was driving the handle of the golf club towards the ball too quickly and too aggressively. So he would go back and he would drive the grip towards the golf ball. He had too much of this pushing across the grip in transition, and as he pushed, it changed the relationship. So watch what happens as I do that in transition. We go back, I drive the handle, this happens. He had, in transition, too much lag. Great for a 7-iron, great for a driver, probably going to help him hit it further. It was terrible for his short game shots. So as he had that transition, he had this excessive shaft lean. He didn't have that at the start. He set up with the club shaft nice and neutral, but as he did this movement, it caused a lot of shaft lean. Now what that did is it effectively meant that the club was closer to him. You know, as I sort of drive the handle forwards and have more shaft lean, the club gets closer to me. So he was likely to top it, unless he dipped his knees, he dropped his head, he did something to get that club down to the ball. Because he had that shaft lean, it also massively de-lofted the club. He started with, I think he was using 56, he set 56 at address, but as he had the shaft lean, he had less loft. How much loft did he have? He didn't really know, but the ball flight was certainly coming up lower than what he sort of visualized in his mind. The other thing as well, as he drove the handle forwards, the leading edge got lower, the trailing edge got higher. He was using the leading edge a lot. And we know that when you use the leading edge a lot, your margin for error becomes really narrow. Inconsistencies are going to happen. So a lot of faults, a lot of poor shots, a lot of ball flights that he wasn't really seeing were happening because of what he was doing in transition. So what we spoke to Ryan about was working more with this movement, okay? This is one of those movements that we started with, okay? Keeping the grip in the same place, club moves back, club moves forward. What Ryan was doing, a little bit of this in the way back and then driving the handle forwards. The first little exercise we gave Ryan was to make a backswing, and I wanted him in that backswing to use a little bit of wrists, you know, to feel as if the club worked up a little bit. But in transition, I actually wanted him to feel like the club head started before anything else. Now, if we do this and we move the club back, how do we move it back to the start? We'd have to start with the club head. It's very simply club head moving back, club head moving through, club head back, club head through, not club back, grip through. Because as you push on the grip, the club gets left behind. And that's such a big issue in the short game. So I asked him to hit shots. I'm actually going to have to go a little bit out to the right here because I will go in the water hitting this shot. I wanted him to basically make a little backswing and just feel as if the club head started to fall to the ground. And then once he'd started to feel that, just turn through and collect it. Maybe get a little backswing, let the club fall, let the club fall, let the club fall, and then just turn through. And straight away what we started to see was the bounce being engaged a little bit more. The club starting to return back to vertical, not having that leading edge digging as much as it was, and we started to get the loft on the club closer to what it was as he set it at address. And what we started to straight away feel or find was that he was much better at judging where the ground was. That would make sense because he was setting up with the club head, or the sole of the club I should say, a certain distance from his sort of sternum. And then when he was getting back to impact, that distance was the same. So he could establish a relationship around the ground or the ball and then return to that point. A little bit under hit, just landed into that upslope. But you can see there that the tempo is pretty good and interaction with the ground was pretty much as I wanted it. There's no divot and I was able to return that club to vertical. Let me hit one more shot. I'm going to try and carry it a little bit further. So how did we get Ryan to practice and work on this? Well, that was the first drill we gave him to do. But then I wanted to give him an idea on how to feel it as he hit the shot. So I asked him to take his right hand and place it right down onto the bottom of the grip and almost onto the club shaft. And I wanted the grip to be sort of running up his forearm, as you can see there. Now, as he set up to ball, that made him stand very, very close. But what I wanted him to do was actually start with that grip against his forearm. Now, in his backswing, it was absolutely fine to let that grip move away from his forearm. But what I wanted him to do was, by the time he'd arrived back at the ball, I wanted that club to be back against his forearm. Now, if we'd have looked at him at the start, he would have gone back and it would have gone further away. That distance would have increased. Okay, so what we did is we got him to hit some really, really short shots. And again, I'm gonna have to go out right to the flag here. Grip against the forearm, move it away, return it, return it, return it, and use the body to collect the ball on the way through. And I can really start to feel that club against my forearm. And we start to get these little shots, which aren't, you know, I'm not gonna do this on the golf course, but it's a great little exercise to feel that connection and when that club returns to the forearm. Okay, and what he started to find very quickly was his interaction with the ground got so much better. He started, as I said, to use the sole of the club. He started to move away from that leading edge. And then once we'd done a couple of those, we very simply said, okay, let's put both hands on. And I actually wanted him to hit shots where he started here and he started to feel this movement before he hit the shot. So you can see how I'm using this movement predominantly. This is the movement I want. As I'm using this movement, I can have a little bit of body turn, a little bit of rotation, but these are the movements that we want. We need to avoid anything where we're pushing across